Mercedes' performance at Silverstone was a big disappointment to the team. Hamilton's been a serial winner of the race, but winning this year was always going to be a long shot. Being beaten by McLaren wasn't even a consideration before the race weekend though. Yet the customer team showed serious quality, and if it weren't for a poorly timed safety car, they would have had 2 cars on the podium. The result has Hamilton worried, and it's making Mercedes completely rethink their strategy for the year. Today, we'll take a look at Mercedes British Grand Prix, Hamilton's bitter disappointment, and where the team goes from here. Let's get started. An incredible transformation saw McLaren jump ahead of Mercedes in F1's pecking order at the British Grand Prix. But was it a one-off or a sign of things to come? McLaren endured a woeful start to 2023, having missed key development targets over the winter, something Zak Brown admitted to from day one of testing. Their technical department was overhauled, and the MCL60 started the campaign as the slowest car on the grid. Steady but slow progress was made as the season progressed, and following several upgrades, the team enjoyed their best performance of the year when Lando Norris qualified and finished 4th in Austria. McLaren's remarkable resurgence continued a week later at Silverstone, where Norris was only denied a shock pole by 0.241 seconds, with teammate Oscar Piastri qualifying a brilliant 3rd. The team's rapid one-lap pace translated over into race day at the British Grand Prix, where the Red Bull-like McLaren was the second fastest car on the grid, as Norris and Piastri held off the Mercedes duo of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell to take 2nd and 4th respectively. It marked the 2nd consecutive race that Mercedes were outclassed by their customer team. It's become a common occurrence for Mercedes to lose out to their customer teams this season, something that's a huge rarity in Formula 1. The Spanish Grand Prix is the only race all season that they've beaten all their customer cars. The result at Silverstone, though, has set alarm bells ringing, with Hamilton admitting McLaren's pace in qualifying at Silverstone was a wake-up call for his team. How many more of those do they need? Hamilton was resounding in his belief that McLaren had 100% a faster car than Mercedes at both the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone. This is the first time in a long time, and they deserve to have the performance they have, he added. So we've got to do a better job. They've now done a better job than us. Russell was left dumbfounded by McLaren's super impressive pace, which he said came from nowhere. Asked if McLaren's performance gives him heart that things can turn around quickly, Russell replied, "It does, it definitely does, but you need to know where to look. I believe we know where we're looking and what we're chasing, but I don't know. I hope it's a one-off, but they were quick in Austria as well, which is a totally different circuit. Regardless, it's very impressive what they've done. Even so, I thought their strategy was the wrong strategy, going on the hards. The soft was such a great tyre, they would have been even further ahead had they put the softs on. Interesting, a bit of a head-scratcher right now." McLaren's leap forward is a huge concern for Mercedes. The reshaped side pods and the following upgrades were meant to lift them out of the midfield and close the gap to Red Bull. While they might be closer to Red Bull, something's clearly not working for the team. Russell himself said it. They thought they knew what they were looking for to improve the car, but now they're having to question themselves all over again. After qualifying 6th and 7th, the Mercedes drivers did improve during the race, but they were no match for McLaren in race trim, and this track was perfectly suited to the W14 as well. Hamilton admits he's worried Mercedes' Silverstone upgrade, predominantly a new look front wing with curved separators, didn't improve the car's performance. "Yeah, definitely. Yesterday was not the greatest feeling at the end," he told the media in the post-race press conference. "I think ultimately we'd had a really bad race, obviously, in the previous week, and we knew we had an upgrade coming here. So we were all very hopeful of the step that we were going to hopefully try to take this weekend and bring us in closer. But to our disappointment, it didn't take us that step, unfortunately. And for us to be 6th and 7th just, ultimately, wasn't a great feeling." This is a recurring problem for Mercedes, and it's defined them since the new technical regulations began in 2022. What is happening at the factory just isn't matching with what happens on the track. They don't understand how their car works. There is some key piece of knowledge that they're missing. It's like trying to paint the Mona Lisa, but the photo you're looking at is missing half her face. It's just never going to be right. And this is forcing the team to completely rethink their plans for the season. Team principal Toto Wolff has admitted the team will soon have no choice but to give up on the development of this season's car and focus on next year. Wolff knows they cannot do anything to stop Verstappen and his dominant Red Bull, and therefore says the time will soon come to switch focus to next season. I think pretty soon, Wolff said when asked when that time would come. We have no choice. P2, P3 fundamentally doesn't impact me and the team. It's about coming back to being able to win a world championship. That's not going to happen this year, so we need to set our eyes on next year, and we'll see with all the races to come how we can learn and develop and make sure that we can carry that forward into next year. Having said that, the regulations are the same, so we're not learning nothing by continuing with this car, so there is a balance to strike. We already know that Mercedes will be completely reworking their chassis for next season to accommodate the decision to abandon the zero-pod concept. There will be a lot of work to be done around that, so there is maybe some sense in abandoning this year's car. Last season they kept pushing upgrades almost until the last race of the season, and while they helped them secure a race win in Brazil, it didn't help them realise how bad the zero-pod concept was. When Aston Martin made massive improvements at the start of the season, Mercedes decided to take it as a positive. If Aston Martin could do it with the Mercedes engine, gearbox and rear suspension, then why couldn't they? Publicly, they're saying the same thing about McLaren's improvements. I would love to hear what's being said behind the scenes though. I would bet my house it isn't at all positive. Wolff said, McLaren were not competitive at the beginning of the season, and it is good to see because it shows if you make the right decisions, the car can jump up by a huge amount. Mercedes' problem is that they can't make the right decisions, something the soon-to-be out-of-contract Hamilton is very aware of. Car-wise, we're battling the same thing the majority of the time. It's a tough car to drive. No matter what we do to set it up, it continues to be a tough car to drive, said Hamilton. On a single lap, I didn't feel any improvement between tyres, which shows something is wrong. We are missing something. The long run didn't seem to be too bad, so that's a positive at least. Until the cost cap came into place, Mercedes were the biggest spending team on the grid. They could throw money at any problem that came their way, and with the fastest engine on the grid backing them up, it worked really well. Something they neglected was their wind tunnel, which the engineers have been complaining is outdated for a few years already. Perhaps that could be part of the problems behind the scenes that are holding Mercedes back from replicating the improvements Aston Martin and McLaren have made. But then again, Aston Martin uses Mercedes' wind tunnel, so maybe not. The consistent problems the team are having, and Hamilton's lack of a new contract are an ongoing problem for Mercedes. For months now, going all the way back to the end of 2022, Wolff has been saying that Hamilton's contract is going to be signed imminently. Before last month's Canadian Grand Prix, Mercedes chief Toto Wolff suggested an agreement was days away. Asked for his thoughts on the situation, Red Bull team principal Horner believes there must be an important point upon which the two sides disagree, and have so far been unwilling to budge. It's strange because we keep being told, and I keep seeing in the media, that it's just a matter of days, he told TalkSport. That's been going on since February, so one can only assume that there is something fundamental that they can't agree on. We don't tend to conduct negotiations through the media. It's usually a couple of conversations around the table and the job is done, so I don't understand why. There has to be something preventing it happening. Hamilton has continued to insist he won't retire from Formula 1 at the end of the season, but is another failed Mercedes upgrade growing the doubt over where he should be if he carries on. Why don't you let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and tell me what you think is stopping Mercedes upgrades from working in the way they're meant to. Thanks for watching, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.